The time is just gone 9:35 a.m. as we continue our broadcast on Salam Media this morning. And we will continue with our coverage on Palestine, in Gaza, and also in other areas of Palestine as we head towards this month of Ramadan. And as Salam Media has been doing relentless non-stop coverage since October the 7th. And in the last 2 weeks, we've had the opportunity of speaking to a number of people. We spoke to Dr. Fawzia Alvi, a Canadian Pakistani doctor who spent about 8 days in Gaza, and she shared her thoughts, her experience with our listeners and our viewers last week. We spoke to Angela Skyke, the South African woman who was in Gaza and needed, obviously, the intervention of the South African government for her to return to South Africa. And to this morning, we have the pleasure, we have the honor of connecting with Susan Abdulhawa, a Palestinian novelist, poet, activist, sharing her experience of being in Gaza. Susan, welcome to the show, and your time with us this morning is appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Susan, as I mentioned, Salam Media, we've been giving extensive coverage, and it's always important to actually connect with people who have been to Gaza, where earlier on, when this aggression had taken place, we were talking to a number of people in Gaza, but due to connectivity issues, and we know what has then happened since then, we were unable to actually connect with people in Gaza. Now, just obviously, you've just returned from Gaza, and from what we see on our television screens, it is not a pretty sight, it is not a good side at all. And I'm sure, being there in person, you must have seen just so much, and you're still possibly trying to absorb what you have experienced.
So, what I witnessed is a fraction of the total reality because my movement was limited in the southern region, as all Palestinian movement is limited to the Rafah area and parts of the middle area in Khan Yunis and other parts like Nuseirat and others. It is there was bombing every single night that we were there, even in Rafah, which is supposed to be a safe place. There was bombing even of tents. It is a horror beyond horror. I have described it as a Holocaust, and I think that term is appropriate. Israel is intentionally not just killing wholesale an entire people, not just erasing all traces of their existence, their libraries, their treasures, their heritage sites, archaeological sites, their universities, their homes replete with memories and photos and hopes. They are also starving an entire population, creating conditions for rampant disease to spread among the most vulnerable. They have created conditions in which a high functioning, proud people are reduced to filth and extreme degradation, physical degradation, psychological, mental, social. It's quite difficult to describe the magnitude as well as the rapidity with which this has happened. The pace is something I think is unprecedented in history. The pace of slaughter, the pace of degradation, the pace of starvation. And on the other side of that, you have this whole society of Israelis, of people who themselves survived a Holocaust, who are not only supporting this, and it's not just Israelis, it's frankly Zionists worldwide, Jews and Christian Zionists around the world who aid and abet and cheer for this. So it's not just a support for this aggression against a principally defenseless civilian population, but it is something they are doing with confounding glee. The videos that they post as entertainment. Palestinian suffering has become their entertainment. Our dead bodies are their entertainment. The more gruesome, the more horrific, the more entertaining. That is completely apparent, and in the ways in which they do this so publicly, the things that they say, the genocidal statements they make, and the way they put this out for public consumption with total confidence that nothing will happen to them should terrify everybody. It is a message that they can do this to anybody they want. I don't know what makes a society that way. It is something I have actually tried to contemplate quite a bit, because I've even tried to imagine how I would feel if the situation was reversed. And there is frankly nothing in my being that could mock such profound suffering, that could take pleasure in the burying of children alive en masse. And so we have to ask ourselves, who are these people? And what is their place in the world? And how do we exist with a society like that? It's not just a government. It is a whole society participating in this. And I don't know what to say. I mean, the United States is a massive hand in all of this, but yet you see American citizens opposing it, at least, and that's not the case with Israeli citizens. So I think people really should contemplate that, but more importantly, I think it is incumbent on everyone to protest and to do everything in their power to make this stop. It has to stop. I don't really have words to truly capture the magnitude of what's happening in Gaza. But it is absolutely unlike anything I have ever witnessed, not even in a movie, not even out of the most twisted imaginations have I really had the sensory input of something so terrifying and degrading and hopeless and miserable in a place that was only a few months ago replete with color and beauty and hope and dreams. Despite all odds, despite siege, despite endless wars, Palestinians still managed to be resourceful, still managed to get an education, to create lives and to build things and to prosper, even within what was tantamount to a concentration camp, frankly. To see all of that, this extraordinary resilience and will and talent and potential be reduced to the most primal of ambitions, just the desire to have a pair of shoes or enough drinking water for the day. for that to become the ceiling of their daily ambitions is the flip side of the dramatic, terrifying videos that circulate. Behind uh, those videos of death and dismemberment and blood is a much bigger, dark force that um, that weighs everybody down.
Yes, Susan. In fact, sometimes we actually lost for words, and I've noticed you mentioned it. There aren't words to describe what you've witnessed and what we see across our television screens, and it's becoming more gruesome by the day, to the point that from this concentration camp that you speak of, Gaza is turned now into an extermination camp, and I'm sure in what you've experienced, what you've seen, even in your interaction with the people of Palestine, and maybe just spend a few minutes just talking about the people of Palestine. I know you mentioned their strength. I know you mentioned their resilience, but on a day-to-day basis, to see all of those unfold in front of your very eyes. The other day I posted a picture on social media where there was an entire family of about 20 or 30 people, young, old, babies, and each and every person represented in this photo was killed, was martyred as well. Now, this is how gruesome this has actually become. This is how merciless these people are, and what the Zionist entity is all about. And I'm sure in your interaction with people, despite their resilience and all of that, what do they say? And particularly looking at women, looking at children, because these are, and obviously the men as well, because these are people that have been innocent throughout this entire genocide and Holocaust, as you had described it.
So I'm actually not talking about their resilience or any of these romantic terms that people like to bestow upon Palestinians. Yes, they are resilient. Yes, they are resourceful, but they are human, and this is beyond what any human should be expected to endure. It is unendurable. It is unbearable, and people are falling apart. As you said, entire families, whole lineage are just wiped away from existence. Um, I, people really are. There's not a single family that has not lost um, loved ones or close family members. There's not one person who is, yeah, oftentimes in conflicts there are people who still live in bubbles. There is no such thing in Gaza. Nobody is safe. Rich and poor alike are reduced in the most awful ways. People want the bombing to stop. That is the first thing they say, and in many ways, they cannot think beyond that. They just want it to stop. If you ask them what will they do after, they don't know. They just want it to stop. And I think, I would appeal to your audience to take part in making this stop. It's not just about donating money. That's easy to do for most people in the West, and in particular. We need people in the streets. We need people making their voices as loud as possible in every avenue of their lives. We need people to educate themselves, to educate the people around them, because this is a moment in history that will and should change the world. There is no going back, and there can be no going back. And you know, South Africa is leading the way for the global South to unite and to take action. And I I see hope in a kind of global South rebellion. Enough of this colonial, genocidal exploitation that just does not end. It has, we, all of us in the global South, in one way or another, have lived under this Western genocidal boot for centuries. Whether they are committing genocide, whether they are settling and stealing the land, whether they are implementing systematic mutilations and oppression to steal resources, whatever they're doing, we always uh end up at the sharp end of their sword, and they couch it all in a way of moral superiority, of this rhetoric of democracy and human rights, and which is a load of crap, and we all know it's a load of crap. um, and I think our interactions with the Western world should be one of rebellion, one of defiance, and one of unity, frankly, amongst ourselves. And I think, this is the message I would like to get out to the rest of the world. It's not, we don't want your charity. We want your solidarity. We want your voices. We are not, we don't, nobody wants to be a charity case. um, that's not what we want. That's not what Palestinians want. That's not who they are. That's not who we are. We are a proud, ancient society with a glorious heritage and and history and culture. We want to preserve that. We want to honor our ancestors, and we need to breathe. We want to live. And that is what Gazans want. They want to send their kids to school in the morning. They want the bombs to stop. And yeah, that's what they say.
Well, I think when we look at and we analyze what has been taking place in the last few months, we see the reaction, Susan, right across the entire world, where many are saying that Palestine will change the course of history. Palestine will change what a new world order would actually look like. And I think many people, billions right across the entire world, have woken up to the truth, to the stark reality that is actually facing the world. And you make mention of South Africa and the support from the global South. And to the extent, even when we talk about the United States of America, the veto power that it used in the United Nations now on 3 occasions, where our very own Minister of International Relations, Dr. Naledi Pandor, had made the statement that it is now time to even change the new world order in terms of how we look at global institutions and the power that they have, or the impotence in stopping genocides, in stopping holocausts like the one we are experiencing right now.
Indeed. Indeed. Um, I think, people in Gaza are, the ceiling of what they want is to breathe, is for the bombing to stop. But I think for those of us who have the privilege of being removed, of sort of being able to step back and zoom out, can see that this moment is going to alter the course of history, and it should wake us all up. It should create a new world order, uh, in which that frankly refuses Western dominance and subdues it or neutralizes Western dominance, because it is a vicious system that all of us have been forced to live under. It is very, and something else, Gaza has exposed so much. It has exposed the sham of international law, the sham of the United Nations, the sham, these mechanisms have always served Western interests. When have we ever seen a Western leader, uh, face charges at The Hague? Never, They are the biggest war criminals, from Vietnam to Cambodia to Iraq to Congo to, you name it. It has been These atrocities have been engineered and implemented and led by Western white men, and none of them have ever faced have had to account for their crimes in any international forum. These international forums are for Black leaders, they're for Arab leaders, and this is how, it's been apparent to those of us you know who are in tune to the machinations of international law, that these are mechanisms meant to perpetuate Western dominance and Western control of the global South. And Gaza has really sort of fractured this veil, and it has exposed the hypocrisy and the mendacity and the frankly evil of this ruling elite, that exists primarily in the Western world, but also extends to our parts of the world as well. I mean, they have their puppets. They have their puppets who implement their wills. Um, and this so this is an opportunity for the global South to step
Certainly,
forward.
Susan. Mm. And also, I think just finally, what Gaza has actually exposed is the benchmark for oceans of injustices that occur, because no other nation has suffered in totality in every aspect of their life: the deprivation, the degradation, the desperation, the humiliation, all of that accompanied in the most brutal forms of punishment against a single nation. Now, this is the benchmark, this is the standard that a Western world has actually set for the people of Gaza in terms of the humiliation and in terms of their suffering. And not only since October the 7th, but which has obviously intensified, but for 75 years. And this is what the world, and this is what activists, this is what peace loving people should actually take note of, that if this is the standard, things have got to change. And things have got to change with a sense of urgency.
Indeed. Indeed. Thank you, brother.
Thank you very much for that, Susan. And with that, I know you've got to leave as well, but we do appreciate it. We really, truly, truly appreciate you taking time out and joining us on this broadcast this morning, right here on Salam Media. And as we say, we will continue at Salam Media, and to you as well. We wish you all the best. We wish you safety, and please keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Susan Abdulhawa joining us live out of Cairo this morning. And what more can be said? Like we say, sometimes we express certain things in words, but when you are lost for words, because this is the extent of the carnage, the brutality, the Holocaust, the genocide. And it's only when you are there, when you are where we see it on our television screens. But can you imagine for one moment, what does it feel like to be physically in Gaza right now, witnessing what people are going through? With that, we're going to go for a break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by our very own COO, Ponti Molasani, taking a look ahead at the month of Ramadan.